So this past week, I took a trip to the central coast of California, and after an impossibly long day of driving, I finally arrived at the conference center. I checked into my room, and I headed to the beach to find a little solace at the water's edge. And even though the sun had set hours before, it was easy to find the beach. First, there's a path from the Asilomar Conference Center, but even without a path, it is pretty hard to miss the ocean. You follow the sound of the waves, and on this particular night, there was a great big moon which made the water just glow. The crashing waves, the gleaming white caps just washed away the stress of my long drive and everything else I was carrying with me. I felt a sense of peace and comfort, but I also knew that those soothing waves were extremely dangerous. The weather app had advised me to be aware of sneaker waves and never turn my back on the ocean. And I know some people do drown in the ocean, even good swimmers. So although I was strongly tempted to walk a bit along the coastline, I decided it probably wasn't a good idea to do that all alone at night. So I turned my back on that beautiful ocean just long enough to point myself back to the path. And that's when I realized the path was totally invisible in the dark. I found myself wishing that there had been a lighthouse or even a streetlight, something marking the entrance to my path. Thankfully, I had walked a fairly straight line across the sand to the water's edge, so I found the trail without too much trouble. But that got me thinking about a parable. Not a parable Jesus himself told, but one I think he might have appreciated. It is called the Parable of the Lighthouse. You might know it. It's the story of a little lighthouse that was built along a very dangerous coastline. And thanks to the efforts of the brave souls who tended the light and kept watch for shipwrecks, many lives were saved. They would bring people into the lighthouse with its welcoming fire, hot soup, restoring bodies and souls. Their work was so inspiring that many who had been saved by them and others who admired them for it wanted to be part of such a life-saving mission. Help was offered, money was donated, and they were able to buy new boats, to train new crews, and to help even more people. It was really good. But then some of the newer folks began to think that it'd be pretty nice to make the place prettier, not quite so rustic. So they invested more money into beautiful furniture, and well, it turned out so nice, people just wanted to hang out there. And it became so well known as a gathering place that people showed up just for the company. And it was hard to tell whether it was a lighthouse or a social club. And some folks began to find the life-saving work kind of a nuisance, especially when big old shipwrecks flooded their beautiful space with wretched, wet, dirty people. Oh, what a mess. Well, the members had a big disagreement about how best to use their lovely space, because some people wanted to keep it nice while other people insisted that saving lives was the priority no matter what. So they voted, and it was decided that if anyone wanted to continue the life-saving work, they could go build a newer space further down the coastline, and that is what they did. Only as time went by, the same thing happened in the new life-saving station and in each new one that was built after it. And now if you go up and down that coastline, you will see many exclusive clubs along the shore. Shipwrecks are still frequent in those waters, only now most of the people drown. That little parable is a serious wake-up call for all communities who call themselves a church, and it forces us to ask this question: who are we? What is our identity? If we call ourselves Christians, or even better, followers of Christ, what does that really mean? Well, in our gospel lesson today from Matthew, we're still in chapter 5, we hear Jesus give his original followers an identity. This is what he says, according to Matthew. You are salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. He also said, you are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Salt of the earth, light of the world. Why these metaphors? Because salt and light both do something important. They transform. Salt transforms even the most hopeless of foods into something that you kind of hope you get to eat, whereas light transforms scary, dangerous places into places of safety and refuge, like a lighthouse. Come to us and we will help you. It's what we do because it's who we are. It's the identity we claim as followers of Jesus. But barely having identified his followers as salt and light, he offers words of caution. Don't lose your saltiness. Don't hide your light under a bushel basket. That Jesus, he had a sense of humor. Really, these are not the funniest jokes Jesus ever told, but they are jokes. Because really, how can salt lose its saltiness? Salt is salt is salt. Some seasonings do lose their flavor over time, but not salt. As for the lamp under the bushel basket, realize he's talking about an open flame kind of lamp. What would happen if you put it under a woven basket? You'd light your house on fire. You just wouldn't do that. Besides, what a silly idea. What's the point of lighting a lamp to cover it up? And that's Jesus' point. A lamp has a purpose, salt has a purpose, and they can't just decide not to serve those purposes. Like salt that can't lose its saltiness, Jesus' followers cannot change their identity. If you're part of Jesus' kingdom, you are blessed and beloved. You are the seasoning that will change the flavor of the world from hopeless to inspired. Unless, of course, you were to withhold your blessing. Put the salt jar on the highest shelf, put the light under the basket, cover up the window of the lighthouse. Just think of the shipwrecks. My friends, we have been called blessed by Jesus in order that we might be the blessing to others whom he also loves dearly. Remember Jesus' words of blessing to the poor, to the meek, to the grieving. They were not blessed because they were flailing around in the water. They were blessed because Jesus' disciples were rescuing them. So at the conference I attended, we were blessed to hear from Father Gregory Boyle, founder of Homeboy Industries, which for over 40 years has been helping gang members find their way to a better life. And even before launching the JAWS program for gang members, Father Greg was involved in the ministry of rescue with his parish at Dolores Mission Church, which offered numerous services, including sleeping space for the vulnerable in their community, unsheltered people, refugees, the hungry, the addicted. Their church was a beacon for those despised by the world, but not everyone was pleased. In his book, Tattoos on the Heart, Father Boyle writes that one day someone drove up in a nice car and introduced himself to the priest, explaining that he had grown up in that church. He had been baptized there, made his first communion there. He'd come back to visit the old place. And this is what he saw. Gang members gathered by the bell tower, homeless men and women being fed in great numbers in the parking lot, folks arriving for the AA and NA meetings, and the ESL classes. It's a who's who of everybody who was nobody. Gang member, drug addict, homeless, undocumented. This man sees all this and shakes his head, determined and disgusted, as if to say, tisk, tisk. You know, he says, this used to be a church. Father Greg writes, I mount my high horse and say, you know, most people around here think it's finally a church. A church acting like a rescue station. That might have been what Jesus was talking about when he gave his followers the instructions to be salt and light for the world, the transformative ingredients that would turn the ruined dish into a masterpiece, while bringing the warmth of light to the dark and scary places. His salty, light-filled disciples transforming this broken-hearted world into something wonderful, something Jesus called the kingdom of heaven. This would be a good time for us to recall the vision statement of the California-Nevada Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church, which I tell my congregation we should probably tattoo on our hands so we never forget, unless, of course, you can write it upon your heart. Our vision statement is following Jesus, thriving in community, and healing the world. Salt and light, people. Salt and light. Now, many years have passed since Jesus preached his Sermon on the Mount, but it's still our identity as his disciples, salt and light, blessed so we could heal the world by being the blessing. And if that sounds daunting, healing the world really, be of good courage. Jesus was not addressing his disciples on an individual basis. This is the teaching he gave to the whole lot of them. In other words, it is not anyone's individual job to heal the wounds of the world all by our lonely selves. It's something we do in community. Just like salt interacts with flour and water and yeast and all those things together, they become the bread. As for lamps, how often do you only need to light just one? No, you light as many as you have to, as many as you have, and all of them glow the place into usefulness. And that is the beauty of being the church together. We get to add our talents to those of our faith community, everyone doing what they do best, and that's what makes it wonderful. For example, I dearly love teaching music to kids, but I'm not so great with artsy crafty things, so teaming up with the crafty people and a musical accompanist or two and some folks who are good at putting together lovely, healthy snacks, and a handful of other people who just bring joy and love. Well, together we've managed to create a nice little program for 17 kids or so who find this a place of love and welcome every Wednesday afternoon. And because we do it together, everyone doing the thing they are best equipped to do, it's a joy. And I think that's what Jesus had in mind when he used that metaphor of salt and light. Because adding flavor and light to the world, it is meant to be joyful, not drudgery. And whenever we shine those lights of ours, we are doing our part to show the kids that the world is a good place full of beauty where they are welcome and important. We offer them a little bit of salt and light, hoping they will be transformed by the blessing and extend it to others in their way and their time. I'm so grateful to my congregation for following Jesus, for creating a thriving community, and for taking those steps to heal the world. Our light's growing, especially when we welcome those kids, their families, and anyone else in the community to our community soup suppers, opening the doors, turning on the lights, making the tables longer so there's room for everyone to sit and be fed and be part of the family. Because we know that one of the greatest pains of modern life is disconnect and loneliness. And our welcoming meals, they meet the need for community. The invitation to a shared meal is a beacon of hope to someone who feels alone in the dark. For those who will come, it's a path to the light of Christ and the light of love. For those who will come. But some will not come, for they're so far away, the path is hard to see. In his address to a room full of spiritual leaders, Father Greg said, "You go to the margins and you stand there, and that erases the margins." I think of the margins as dark places, far away from the glowing fire of community and safety. And I picture the people on the margins as maybe afraid to go toward the glow because maybe they've been told they're not welcome there. Sometimes it's easier to stay in the darkness. But if we claim to follow Jesus, then we are meant to do what Jesus did, to go to the margins, bringing whatever light we can carry, and suddenly no more margin. It's just part of the expanding circle of safety and light and warmth and community and love. Father Greg also told us the story of a young man named Pedro. He also tells the story in Tattoos of the Heart, a book I can't recommend enough. Pedro had gone into the darkness of drug addiction, but thankfully he finally let Father G take him to rehab. Well, about a month later, Pedro's brother did what gang members almost never do. He shot himself. I mean, homies die often, usually by gun violence, but not self-inflicted. This was devastation on a new level, the darkest darkness. So Father G went and picked up Pedro from rehab to attend the funeral. He made sure to stipulate he was bringing him right back afterward. Pedro said no, for sure he wanted to go back because he really liked the way recovery made him feel. And then he told Father G about a dream he had had the night before. Turns out, in his dream, the two of them were in a big empty room, all dark, when suddenly, in the dream, Father G takes a flashlight from his pocket and shines the light onto the wall, illuminating a light switch. And Pedro understands that he is the only one who can turn the switch on, and he feels grateful to Father G for having a flashlight to show him where it is. So he makes his way to the wall switch, takes a breath, and he flips it on, and there's light. Now, by this point of the story, this young man is sobbing. In a voice of astonished awe, he tells Father G, "The light is better than the darkness." Like he didn't know that to be the case. And through his weeping, he finally manages to say, "I guess my brother just never found the light switch." We cannot flip the switch to heal someone from what ails them, but we can for sure shine a light on the switch. And that, my friends, is the gift of the church. A beacon of hope, a light for the world, if we don't cover it, but rather open the doors wide so that others can find their way in, but also so we can find our way out and do our work, which is to bring the light into the world, to the dark places, erasing the margins. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." So, my friends, carry that light. Carry it out into the kingdom of God to all the places it is needed.